Another day, another tablet for Samsung. They've got the 7-inch size for portability, and they've got the 10-inch size for having a bigger screen. Does the Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 8.0 strike the right balance? I'm Andrew with mobileburn.com. Let's find out. The Galaxy Tab 3 8.0 looks like a giant phone. And I don't really mean that as a bad thing, because just picture what the Galaxy S4 would look like, and if it was scaled up for someone who's, let's say, 9 feet tall, this would probably look a lot like the tablet. Now, it has the same glossy finish to it, so it's going to attract fingerprints, it's going to attract moisture, and it's going to also feel like it can slide right off your hands. But it is very thin for a tablet. You can actually hold it with one hand, and one-hand operation is very conducive with the Galaxy Tab 3 8.0. Aside from that, it comes in white or golden brown, and it has that faux metallic rim along the edges. So if you get white, it's going to have a silver rim. If you get the golden brown, it's going to have kind of like a gold along the outer rim. Now on that rim, you'll find a micro SD slot, supports up to 64 gigabytes. On the right hand side, there's the power button, menu up and down, as well as an IR port. This is what you're going to use to control your TV. So if you want to have the tablet act as a remote, you can actually do that with the Galaxy Tab. On the bottom is a micro USB port, and it does support MHL on there in case you want to connect it to a TV. And it also has speakers on the right and left side. Now, the speakers actually reach a decent volume, and they have good sound quality to them. But the problem is the placement. Because they're both on the same side or on the bottom when it's held in portrait, it might sound okay in portrait, but when you put it in landscape, all the sound is going to be coming on your right hand side or your right ear, and your hand might be muffling the ports themselves. So it's kind of disappointing that Samsung didn't put the speakers further along the left side for when it's held in landscape, or on the back, or even on the front like we saw with the ACC One. Anyway, no use crying over spilled milk. What's done is done. What you will focus on with this tablet is that it has an 8-inch display. So it's not really a giant phone in the literal sense. This is a tablet, and that 8-inch display has a 1280 by 800 resolution, which is about 189 pixels per inch. It's not the most pixel dense display. It's not going to wow you at all. It's just going to be a good performer. You know, they say, the journeyman in sports, basically, that's what this is going to be. It's going to be someone that gets the job done. It's not going to be flashy. It's not going to wow you. It's just going to be a quality display when you're reading, when you're watching video, especially. With video, you really don't care as much about the lack of pixel density, but it has very solid colors. It's bright, and it has consistent viewing angles. So you don't have to, this isn't one of those devices where you have to be looking dead center at the tablet. It's gonna look good even if you tilt it a little bit, or if you put it on a stand and it's propped to the side of you, it's still gonna have a quality display. And in an attempt to make the screen a little bit better, Samsung actually includes something called reading mode. Now this basically kind of dims the brightness, changes the colors a little bit, just a tiny bit, in order to make your eyes more relaxed when you're reading. When you're staring at an LCD screen for 2 or 3 hours at a time, which you'd likely to do when you're reading an ebook, your eyes might get a little bit tired or a little bit weary and blurry. The reading mode is designed to make you feel a little bit more comfortable while you're reading. And it works. It's not a game-changing thing, but it does make a difference when you're using it for a long period of time. Now, I call this a giant phone, but it actually doesn't have some of the things that your phone does. It only has a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor and 1.5 gigabytes of RAM. You'll notice that because it has slow transitions, and there's noticeable lag when you try to load an app. You tap a button, it doesn't really jump and appear right away. And that's something that's persistent throughout, more because of the TouchWiz software. TouchWiz is known to be a drain on resources, and with only a dual-core processor, it's not acting as well as it does on some other devices. Aside from that, it's also missing some of the things you might have seen in other Samsung products recently. There's no smart pause. There's No air view, there's no air gestures. It does have the smart stay, so the screen will stay awake, but it has to be a lot of light coming on you in order for that to work. And that's kind of sad, but other aspects of the software are on point. For instance, multi-window is just awesome on an 8-inch screen. I've used it on the Samsung Galaxy S4, but I like it a lot better on the tablet because there's all that extra space. You can pretty much split the tablet in two, so I can have my browser open on one side of the screen, and I can have something like Gmail open, so I can do two things at once, or I can have YouTube open while I'm taking notes on something. So you can really multitask in a nice way. I also mentioned that it has an IR port, and there's an app called Watch On, which is pretty much your TV guide and remote control. I really like this because it taps in with your local listings for your cable box, and then you just point the tablet at your cable box, and you can control the channel, you can mark favorites, choose a show that you're going to watch, and it's really good. Aside from that, there's screen mirroring to a TV, and you can connect to other Samsung devices using Samsung Link or through Wi-Fi Direct and all these different protocols. But it's nice software additions to it. It doesn't have the complete package that you saw on your Galaxy S4, but it does have some things that make this tablet pretty attractive. I'm not big on cameras on a tablet, but for those who want one, there is a 5 megapixel rear camera that is pretty average. Actually might be a little bit below average when it comes to taking photos, but it's there in case you need it. More importantly is a front-facing camera that has a 1.3 megapixels for video chat and self-portraits. I would have preferred that Samsung even did away with the rear camera and just focus on having a great front-facing camera. You know, they have 2 megapixel cameras in some other devices, so it would have been better applying resources there. Moving along, you have the battery, which is actually pretty good, 4,450 milliamp. I lasted on this device probably about 8 to 10 hours depending on what I was doing on a regular basis. It wasn't a problem at all. The one thing I noticed is that its standby time might be a little bit iffy because there was a day where I plugged it in, walked away, didn't use it until the next day when I'm leaving the house, and I noticed like a good 15 to 20% was already gone. So with the long battery life, it shouldn't be an issue most likely, but if you put this to the side and then it's not fully charged when you need it, that might be an issue. But if you charge it regularly or you use it regularly, you should never have a problem with battery life. The Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 8.0 feels like a giant smartphone pretending to be a tablet. And that's not a problem on its own because you could just as easily say the same thing about the iPad mini or the Nexus 7. But the problem is this isn't better than a phone. You know, other than the bigger screen, what does this do better than the Samsung Galaxy S4? Nothing. And that's kind of a problem. When you get a tablet, it's supposed to be more than just now I have an 8-inch screen instead of a 5-inch screen. You should be getting some type of enhancement aside from more screen real estate. And you don't really get that with the Galaxy Tab 3 8.0, which kind of defeats the purpose of getting a tablet to begin with. Now, this is a decent device, but it's hampered by hardware that can't keep pace with its software, and it actually has some software that's missing that you've seen in other devices. It has a respectable screen, some nice additions to it, and a comfortable feel, but it's not remarkable in the least. The only people who are going to love this phone are the people who love, I called it a phone. The only people who are going to love this tablet are the people who love Samsung and they love TouchWiz, but they don't want the Galaxy Note 8.0. And if you're one of those people, yes, this will do a good job for you reading books, browsing the web, playing a game here and there. But in the little in-between times when you're switching between apps, when you're trying to load something, or you just want a certain feature, it's not going to blow you away and it's not going to be mesmerizing, which is kind of a disappointment. Yes, you could get this tablet and save some money on the Galaxy 8, but honestly, there are probably going to be better options out there for you. So you might want to consider spending extra money for the Galaxy 8, or even spending less money and getting a Nexus 7, or maybe spending a little bit more and getting an iPad mini. It depends on what you want. But honestly, I'd look elsewhere. This is Andrew from mobileburn.com reviewing the Samsung Galaxy Tab 3 8.0. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, feel free to click like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.